Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of The Town of Light. I played on the Xbox Series X, and it's basically available on everything else. PlayStation, PC, Nintendo Switch even, I believe. And so once again, this is a game that's very much about mental health awareness, although in a very different way. But you play as Renee T, who is sent to a mental asylum, basically. Not like just a straight up asylum, let's call it, in Italy. She is probably schizophrenic, it's kind of hard to tell. This is really more of a telling of a historical asylum and the horrors that went on there, and that really is the only real horrific element to this, is that this shit actually happened to people. Whether Renee is a real person or not is up in the air, but the asylum and stories from it are the inspiration to this game. And admittedly, what happens to Renee and that she's an unreliable narrator is an interesting element to the game. But that being said, saying it's compelling enough to be a game this length is a bit of a stretch. So let's get into the audio, and the first thing I'm going to say is I think the sound effects that are there are well done, but I definitely ran into missing sound effects. I think the music is very well done. I think actually the music is really kind of excellent. And the voiceover work, the English is better than, you know, Martha is Dead, which I played recently, but the Italian is still superior. As for the gameplay mechanics, this is what a lot of people would deem a walking simulator, and this one takes it to a bit more of an extreme than a lot of the ones that I play. Everybody knows I like interactive narratives, but the interactive element of this is weak. There are weird elements too, like this decision-making system that doesn't seem to matter in the slightest, so why it's even there, who the fuck knows, and who the fuck cares. There's no puzzle solving to be done. There is some exploration, but not real exploration. There's a lot of wandering around aimlessly. This game doesn't do the best job of directing you. So that kind of limits this game from a narrative standpoint, because if you don't know where the fuck you're going and you're just really wandering about, that slows things down painfully. That also being said, there are long stretches of time where you do absolutely fuck all, and it makes you sit there and go, this should probably be a movie or a documentary or something like that rather than a game. So gameplay mechanics and whatnot, this game really kind of falls very, 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 very short. As for the controls, overall the controls are fine. They do some weird shit, like when you're actually walking around controlling, they work fine, but I use inverted controls for my camera, and so when there were, you know, scenes where I could only move the camera but couldn't move shit around, it would reverse my controls, so that was weird and annoying. And then lastly, the graphics and visuals, and it's an ugly game, honestly. The people in it don't look like people, like they look weird and just distorted, and at times that would make sense, but then there are the times where they're not really supposed to look that way and they're supposed to be real and supposed to be a reliable thing, and it's like, ugh. Obviously they should look weird and distorted when they're back in her memories and stuff, because shit like that can get twisted in the brain and that would make sense, but it looks bad the rest of the time too. I will say that the asylum being abandoned and whatnot is creepy, and they do this creepy thing with it and they make it seem creepy, but it's not really a horror game, so that's kind of weird and interesting, I guess. And then you have a bunch of hand-drawn stuff, and that actually all looks really kind of good, but it's also spooky and haunting, and because again, like, this is a mentally ill individual, so maybe it's the way she sees things and perceives things, which gives it a creepy element. But also, one complaint I had with the visuals is whenever I was outside, everything looked blurry and muddy, and it would look really muddled together, and it just looked like dog shit. It was really unfortunate. So to get into the wrap-up, to put it simply, almost everything in this game is horrific. Now, as for the story, that's a good thing because it's meant to be a horrific story, but as for the gameplay mechanics and visuals, obviously them being horrific is not a good thing. And if it seems like I'm rushing through this review, well, it's because I am, because quite frankly it wasn't worth my time or effort. I don't care what the price was. I played this because I thought it looked interesting originally and I was trying to clear out some of my backlog, and well, I regret it. I wish I hadn't spent the money on it. I don't recommend anyone spend the money on it. It's unfortunate because if this were a movie I would definitely watch it and recommend it, but as a game I cannot and will not. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, have you seen any movies where you're like, hey, this is something everybody needs to see? Because if this was a movie, I would say that. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. And if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.